Previously on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Just this week, the Washington Redskins, they franchised Kirk Cousins for the second year in a row.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins or Kirk Cousins?
I pronounce it Kirk.
Okay, good.
K-I-R-K.
Yeah. It seems like the general manager of the Redskins doesn't pronounce it the same way as you.
Doesn't surprise me.
Right.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hey, Skippy.
Hey, Josh. What's going on?
How are you?
Great. Exhausted.
We're both back from Cooperstown now, and that's why we're both tired.
Yeah. It was a great weekend. It went by so quickly, and I'm very happy that we went. I had an amazing time, as you know, and I hope you did too. It was great. To me, it was like the ultimate baseball experience. You know, this is episode number 50.
Ooh.
So it's a big milestone. And I'm happy that episode 50 is going to be about something that really represents an experience that we shared, we have it written in the description of the show. This is a show about how sports affects us. And while this show might not be so much about sports and stats and numbers, it's certainly about our love of baseball and just this great experience that we had.
We decided to go to Cooperstown a long time ago. I live in Toronto, which, by the way, that's where I am now. And you're where now?
Montreal, my
okay.
house.
And you live in Montreal. And the third person that was joining us on this trip, Book, our Atlanta correspondent, lives in Atlanta. So how were we all going to get there at the same time? Well, basically, I decided I was going to drive to Syracuse on the Saturday morning, the day before the induction ceremony. You also were going to drive to Syracuse on Saturday morning, and Book was going to fly to Syracuse on Saturday morning, and we'd all meet at the airport and then take one car and go from there.
Right. It worked out perfectly, actually.
It did work out very well, considering, we didn't know exactly what time any of us were going to arrive, but I was the last one to arrive, and I don't think you guys were waiting too long.
No, it was the timing was incredible. We didn't really try to say, oh, we have to time it, and I think you arrived 10 minutes after me.
Perfect. So anyway, then we get into the car, and that's when the trip really begins because the three of us are together.
Right.
And so we drive to Cooperstown, and it takes a couple of hours. I don't even remember exactly.
It's an hour and a half, maybe, something.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And so we're there, and it's a really small town for anyone who hasn't been there.
What is this?
Anytown, USA.
And everything is pretty close to where you need to go. There's nothing that far. Right.
There's only one street, right? It's Main Street, and that's about it.
But of course, we couldn't find parking, right?
Because this little town in the middle of nowhere, population 3, all of a sudden has 20,000 people there, right?
Exactly.
So,
although most of them actually showed up only on Sunday morning, I found out later.
Yeah, Sunday was even worse than Saturday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we thought Saturday was bad, Sunday was worse.
But we managed to find a good spot in that red lot. It was great.
Yeah, the red lot saved us a few times.
Yeah.
So then
it did.
Then from the red lot, there's a trolley that takes you to Main Street. So the trolley was there, so we took the trolley. Truth is, we could have walked there quicker.
It's so funny because you pay $2 to get on the trolley, which is whatever. It's fine. But we're hot and we're tired. We figure we're going to take this trolley. We don't know how far it is to go to get to the main street, right? Literally, the bus goes down the street and you're there.
And then the bus had to stop somewhere else. So had we not taken the bus,
yeah,
we would have got there quicker.
It drove down the street, and it's if he would have just let us out, we were there. But no, he can't let us out there because there's too much people in traffic. So he turns and he goes all the way around this roundabout way, which takes 10 minutes. When in reality, you were there in
seconds.
In 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So we didn't take the trolley again.
In any case, we finally get into the Hall of Fame at around 2 something, and it closes at 5 on Saturdays, or at least on this particular Saturday. Yeah. And so we had less than 3 hours to see everything, which, I wouldn't have minded if we had a little bit more time because I felt it a little bit rushed at some points.
Yeah, because they kept making the announcements the Hall of Fame's closing at 5 and the library's closing at 4:30. And we wanted to make sure we got in line for the store, right? The gift shop, which is a huge part of going to the Hall of Fame, right? So
although that closed at 6, I think.
Yeah, I know. But still, I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe if we had an extra hour, we wouldn't have felt felt the time pressure, right?
But nonetheless, it was fun to go. We've all been there before. There were some new things that I hadn't seen.
When were you last there? Like 10 years ago? More?
I don't think it was 10, but certainly more than 5.
Yeah. Did you like the actual Hall of Fame museum?
I did. I mean, it's very, I guess, stoic, for lack of a better word.
It's a museum, right? It's like
Yeah.
exhibits.
It's
Yeah.
not interactive like the Hockey Hall of Fame.
No, it's not interactive at all. So like kids really need to love baseball to go there, right? Because you're not touching and doing anything. You're just looking at stuff and reading things.
Although there were some cool things like those videos, and you could control the videos by selecting the one you wanted to watch. So it was a little bit interactive.
Yeah, the video boards were good, I have to admit. But I mean, for me, like, I just loved it in there. I think it's just so... First of all, Cooperstown, the city, is just like this little town that's sort of frozen in time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like I was in like...
The movie Pleasantville?
Yeah, something like... That's a really good one, actually. I was going to say, like, you know, in Field of Dreams, when he goes out of his hotel and he walks down the street and then all of a sudden, like, he's in another time, you know? Like, so it was something like that, yeah. Yeah.
So one thing I was disappointed about, actually, at the hall, when we went in to see all the plaques, I wanted to see Tim Raines' plaque, and it wasn't there yet.
Well, it's not there yet. They can't put the plaque until he's actually inducted, right?
I mean, I guess so, but like I was expecting to see it. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I was expecting to see it.
But it was cool that they had like the white space where the plaque was going to go, and the inductees signed their name in that space.
Yes.
Right. So that was pretty cool. And then it's great that they have the first class there, and I really like. I mean, we mostly focused on the more recent honorees to find, you know, Dawson's plaque and Carter and Pedro, you know, the Expo connections, but I really love the plaques. You know, the first time I ever went to the Baseball Hall of Fame was, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe more. And I wanted to spend hours at the plaques looking at every one, you know?
Well, that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's the main thing. But the exhibits upstairs are very good. I mean, the Henry Aaron exhibit was spectacular. Like, it's really, like, if you go through that exhibit and you really take the time to read everything, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, they have some good stuff there, obviously, and you can spend hours there.
There's a letter that Henry Aaron received. Like, we know he received so many threats, but there's one there that's like encased in glass. Like, I don't know how they chose it, and it really shows it shows the times. You know, basically it's this angry letter calling him every, you know, racist name under the sun, and you know, it just gives you the perspective of, you know, where we are today, you know, in our society.
Yeah. So then after we're done looking at the hall, we went to the shop, as you said, the gift shop.
Shop is great.
Each of us bought one or two things. Actually, the best thing that any of us bought was you bought your postcards.
Yeah.
This is like a tradition for you. I've seen these postcards at your house before.
Yeah.
And explain to everybody what it is.
Well, the first time I was there, like, they have like literally a postcard like that you could mail for every Hall of Famer. And it's basically the front of the postcard is their Hall of Fame plaque. So the first time I ever went to the Hall of Fame, I bought like Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, like, I don't know, players that I like, Willie Mays, I forget who. And then so this time I bought like a whole bunch of new ones. Well, I couldn't buy Raines because it wasn't out yet. It's just like his plaque, right?
Right.
So, you know, Dawson, Carter, Pedro, Duke Snyder, Cal Ripken.
And they're 50 cents each, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best deal because everything there is crazy expensive.
Yeah, everything's really expensive, but 50 cents each. It's a great little souvenir, you know?
It is.
Yeah. And then the amazing thing is, so we got home Sunday night, right? So Tuesday night, I text you because I start looking at the cards a little more detail, and I realize that the Pedro Martinez one is all in Spanish.
Now, was there an English one also?
There had to have been, but the thing is, I didn't even look at the plaque. I didn't even look at the text on the card when I picked it up. I'm like, oh, Pedro Martinez. It's like the writing is so small, right? So I'm like, I didn't even look at it. And then I just put it in the pile of the ones that I wanted to get. And then sure enough, like 2 days later, I'm like, hey, this is all written in Spanish.
That's very funny.
So it's pretty cool. They have a Spanish version of the plaque, like, even though there isn't a Spanish version of the plaque.
Right, exactly. But that's why would you think to look? Because I would just assume that whatever's on the postcard is what's actually in the museum.
I know, it's amazing. So I'm actually happy that I bought it. It's like something totally different and cool.
Now, next time you go, you can get the English Pedro.
Maybe.
So anyway, so we leave there, and then we walk to Doubleday Field, where there was a ceremony going on to induct Rachel Robinson and two other people who I don't know their names.
Yeah, they were giving out some awards, right, for the press and for lifetime achievements and stuff. And
it was free to go in, so we could go in if we wanted to, but we didn't really. We just passed by and we didn't go watch. But
now comes my favorite part of the weekend.
Well, yes, I was just going to say, so I'll let you tell the next part of what happens.
Sure. So, when we first decided we were going to do this trip, I told you I have one goal for the weekend. That was to actually meet Jonah Keri.
Yes.
Now, Jonah, he's not like such a huge celebrity, right? But like, we don't know him personally, even though he's originally from Montreal. But like, I listen to his podcast. I listen to whenever he's a guest on another podcast. I've seen him on TV. I read his articles. I follow him on Twitter, so like.
And I've purchased his book.
Yeah, you read his book, right?
Well, I'm in the middle of reading Up, Up, and Away, which is about the Expos.
Yeah. So I feel like I kind of know him because, he's such a champion of the Expos. And I mean, he's basically responsible for getting Tim Raines into the Hall of Fame. And Raines even thanked him, So, I mean, so we're walking from Doubleday Field back to Main Street. And I'm like, hey, guys, there's Jonah Keri. He's standing right there. And then I don't know if it was you or Book that said to me, like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. That's definitely him, So we walk right up to him. And he's talking to a couple of people, which I think were his friends, right?
Yeah.
And I just go right up to him and I say, Jonah, very nice to meet you, and I tell him my name, and then he's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Like, he knew me. Like, I swear to God, I was gonna faint. Like, he's answered my tweets. I've responded to his tweets, and he's answered tweets. Like, we've had like little Twitter conversations over the past like 5, even maybe longer, at least 5 years. So he probably does know my name, right? Because he's seen it on Twitter. But when I actually went up to him and I said it and I shook his hand and he knew me, I was like, oh my God, this is too much. He literally knew me. I couldn't believe it. And he could not have been nicer. I mean, he stood there and talked to us for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, he did. And
right? Like,
well, go on, because I have something to say.
I mean, he stood there and talked to us for like 30 minutes, and we weren't like keeping him there. He was telling us stories, unprompted. He told us a crazy story about when Pedro got inducted, right? And
we're not going to get into that now. It's too long.
Yeah, and another kid came up to him and, asked him to sign the book while we were talking to him. And
I wish I had brought my book with me, but I didn't.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was great. Like, the fact that we met him and he's played such a key role in Tim Raines, which is the reason why we went to Cooperstown in the first place, was just the perfect thing to happen,
When you said to me months ago, you want to meet Jonah Keri, around the same time I said to you, what I want to do is, I'm sure there's going to be like a private party for Tim Raines on Saturday night, and I want to try and get into that party. But we didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, so then this is what happened. He tweeted something like 2 weeks ago about this thing that he's running on the CBS Sports website about like a bracket challenge with the best celebrations of sports history. It's unrelated to anything we're talking about. So as a joke, I responded saying, what about Warren Cromartie draped in the Canadian flag, which, as Expos fans know, is what happened when they clinched the pennant in 1981. Mm-hmm. Not when they clinched the pennant, when they beat the Phillies in the playoff series.
Yes.
So he responded to my tweet saying, oh my God, what a great answer. And then I responded by posting the picture of Cromartie with the flag. And then I wrote, will we see you in Cooperstown? Like, I wanted to get a conversation started, right? Mm-hmm. To like scope out about like this potential like VIP event that we could somehow get into.
Right. Which we didn't even know if it existed.
Right. But what we found out is that he was throwing the VIP event for Tim Raines.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was talking to us about the event, and he literally told us, sorry, guys, like, I'd love to invite you, but, I can't invite everybody. And literally, I just met you 30 minutes ago.
Right.
Basically is what happened.
So we didn't get to go to the VIP party. But we did stay in Cooperstown for another hour or two because there was a parade down Main Street
which was tons of fun.
A bunch of former Hall of Famers were, driven down the street, and then the new inductees were driven down the street.
Yeah.
And actually, the highlight for me wasn't even Tim Raines. The highlight for me was booing Bud Selig.
Oh my God, you booed him so loud. you know, sometimes there's boos, right? You know, you could boo people. You've been at sporting events where people get booed, right? Mm-hmm. You've done the booing, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes. But the booing that you gave Selig was so passionate. It was so angry, you know?
Because it was like 20 years worth of booing.
It was so passionate and angry that I was like, oh my God. I thought like people were going to start looking at you and like really like wonder what the hell's going on. Like, is this person dangerous? Is like, should we be scared? Because it was so angry. It was great.
I wasn't the only one booing, and I found out
No, you weren't the only one booing, but you had like a twinge to your boo that was really intense.
Well, I did tell you on our last episode that I may get kicked out.
Yeah, you could have got arrested right there.
So I found out the next day on Sunday. By the way, we didn't even mention, of all the fans that were in Cooperstown, there were by far more Houston Astros fans than any other fans.
Oh, yeah. So, like, just like we set the scene for our episodes, let's set the scene a little bit for the weekend. I mean, you could not walk more than 30 seconds
what do you
anywhere.
mean? Not even 30 seconds, 2 seconds.
No, but without seeing someone in an Expos shirt and an Expos cap.
Right.
Was what I was going to say.
Right.
Like, you saw an Expos shirt and an Expos cap every 5 seconds. No matter where you went, you saw them. But as much Expos fans as there were, we were outnumbered by the Astros fans.
10-1 or 20-1 or 100-1, who knows?
Because their jerseys are this bright orange, I don't know, but they had a presence. You know, there was a big Astros presence. And there was also a big Puerto Rican presence with all the Puerto Rican flags and the Puerto Rican t-shirts, you know, because for Ivan Rodriguez. So
yeah. I
found it made such a really cool weekend. You know, you had the Texas people, you had the Canadians, you know, like it was great.
More on the Texas fans later, and you know what I'm referring to. But
sure, yeah.
But I overheard an Astros fan talking to a friend of his on the phone.
Yeah, we were walking back, right? Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I know we don't like Bud Selig because he made us go to the American League, but imagine if you're a Montreal Expos fan.
Right, and you lost your team, right?
Yeah. Going back to the booing, the Astros fans were booing him as well.
Right.
Not as much as the Expos fans, maybe, but still. So the parade ends, and then there's really nothing to do in Cooperstown since we're not going to the party. So, of course, we went to Sal's Pizza and we got some fudge, because what else are you going to do when you're in Cooperstown?
Well, Sal's Pizza, first of all, is fantastic. I didn't have any, and I severely regretted it because we didn't end up eating till almost 3.5 hours later.
Well, I could have told you that was going to happen.
Yeah. So, and I don't know what happened to your fudge, but, like, did you ever eat it?
Oh, yeah. It was delicious.
Okay, because it was on life support for, like, that whole Sunday. I couldn't believe it survived.
No, well, it was in the cooler, so there was nothing going to happen to it.
Yeah. So we finally made it back to the hotel, which is about an hour or so away from Cooperstown. We were staying in Albany. Do you want me to tell the story of the room and the bed?
We could tell the story quickly, but we didn't get to go to the minor league baseball game in Albany that we were planning to go to. We didn't get to go to that.
No, like you said, like we were already so rushed at the Hall of Fame, and you know, just like I think we were exhausted already. So we get to the room. So just to backtrack. About 2 months ago, I booked the room for $130 a night for the three of us, right? And then around 2 weeks ago, I get a call from Book. He's like, I'm on Priceline. They have the same hotel for $69 a night. I'm like, Mike, how could it be? Like, how come I'm booking $130 and you're getting $69? Like, what is this? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if you think for sure we're going to have the same room, and because I never booked on Priceline, I don't know how it works and whatever. So I'm like, if you think everything's cool, then just go ahead and book it and cancel mine. So that's exactly what he did. He booked on Priceline, and then he called the hotel and he canceled the other reservation, and he asked the hotel, is it for sure 2 beds? And they said yes. But you know what was going to happen, and I know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I was waiting for this to happen. And we get to the hotel, there's 1 king-size bed.
Right, for 3 people.
For 3 people. So now what are we going to do? Now the best is we go back to the front desk, and they basically told us we're out of luck. The hotel's completely full. There's no extra rooms. We asked if we could have a cot. They said they don't have any left. We asked if we could have extra blankets. They said they don't have any left. I don't understand how a hotel runs out of blankets, but that's apparently what happened. Mm. So I have to admit, Book is a kind of MacGyver. Because what we did is we went to Target. We bought a piece of foam that you would normally put like a mattress topper, like it's for like to put on the top of your mattress to make it more cushiony. So we bought a piece of foam, a sleeping bag, and a blanket, and Book made himself a little bed on the floor with that material.
Yeah.
And then we woke up, and the next morning we went back to Target, and he returned it all.
Yeah. Less than 12 hours after purchasing it.
And what was crazy is I pulled up in front of the Target at like 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
He goes in with the stuff. I didn't even have time to like look at my phone, think about anything. Like he was back. It's like he returned it in like 12 seconds.
It took him less time to return it than to buy it.
Yeah, for sure. So that was the room.
So on Saturday night, when we finally checked in and after we had purchased all the stuff for the makeshift bed,
Yeah.
we met our friends Neil and Paul. Neil is known to our listeners as our Boston correspondent.
Right.
And also our March Madness expert.
Right.
And also our golf expert, although we haven't had him on for that.
We will never have him on for that, I don't think.
But anyhow, so it was nice to see Neil and Paul. We met them at a bar not far from the hotel to watch UFC. Not that I care at all about UFC, but we hadn't eaten dinner, so we were hungry. They went to the minor league baseball game. We met there, we ate, and we had a great time.
It was great. The UFC was basically on in the background. The only one who really knows anything about UFC was Neil.
Right.
And it was still fun to watch. I mean, at one point it was getting late, right? It was like midnight, and I was like, "Okay, guys, I think I'm like, Book was like, "Okay, let's just go." I'm like, "Well, the main event is coming. Like, let's just wait a little bit longer. You know, we stayed this long. Let's just wait. You know." So we didn't end up getting back to the room till like 1, I think.
Right. And everyone there at the bar, they were really into this fight. Like, we didn't really care, but everyone was so into it. So anyway, so that's pretty much it for Saturday. Then we moved to Sunday. So Sunday, all we had to do, I mean, we're now in Albany. We got to drive back to Cooperstown. We check out of the hotel. We had breakfast at Panera Bread.
I highly recommend Panera Bread for breakfast, by the way. It was fabulous.
Panera Bread's good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
So then we drive back to Cooperstown. And of course, now it's Sunday. So if we thought there were a lot of people there on Saturday, it's even worse now on Sunday. And parking was even more difficult.
People were charging $20 to park in their driveway,
or 30 or 40, depending on where their house was.
Yeah, we saw other ones for 40 and even one sign for 50.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That 50 was like when we were first getting into the town, you know, like. So I mean, if these people are making some money, but it's like their one chance, right?
Yeah. So anyway, we lucked out because we go back to the red lot and we think, okay, there's no chance we're getting a spot because by the time we get there, it's 11 something, I think, at this point.
It was 11, yeah. And it was full. We had no chance. It was full.
Yeah, which I knew was going to be full. But then, lo and behold, this guy tells us, oh, I'm moving my car. You can take my spot. It was like...
He was moving his car from where he had parked because he realized there was a closer spot in a handicap spot that he was allowed to park in. So we literally came at the exact time when he was moving his car. Otherwise, we would have never got that spot.
Right. So we got a great parking spot, and then we walked. And now, here's what I don't understand. So this town is tiny, and there's thousands of people there, and there's also tons of troopers all over the place. And so you would think that the place where the induction is happening, it's just at a field. I don't even know. It's called Clark Sports Field or something like that. No one seemed to know how to get to this field, even though it was like a mile away.
Yeah, the people knew who had been there before, but like the thing is, like they brought in the New York State troopers to help out, right?
And
but
they were
these guys don't
clueless.
know anything about Cooperstown. They were useless. They had no idea where you asked for directions. He told you the wrong way.
Yeah, he had to pull out his map, and then he told me the wrong thing.
Yeah.
He had no clue.
Eventually we figured it out, and then as we got closer, we started seeing more people walking there and stuff. So
right, and then somehow we found Neil and Paul who were there before us,
which is also another miracle because you know there's 20,000 people there, and we sat next to them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, but then the only problem was we got there really early, which was great.
Yeah.
But now you got to sit around and wait because this thing doesn't start till 1:30, and we had to wait. We got there like at noon or maybe even earlier.
Yeah, and then it started at 1:30.
Right. So that's like we waited at least an hour and a half before it finally started.
We had in our head that we were going to leave after Tim Raines spoke.
Right.
So, you know, if he went first, we were going to just leave.
Right.
If you know, Bagwell went and then it was Raines, then we were going to leave. Whatever the case, right?
Right.
So Selig goes. Sherholtz was first.
Right.
And he was the longest, which was slow torture.
Well, they were all long.
They were all long. Yeah.
They were all like half an hour.
At least 25 to 35, right?
Yeah.
Right? So Sherholtz goes, and we're like, okay, maybe Reigns is next. No, it's Bagwell. Maybe Reigns is next. Selig. So at this point, you're like, maybe Reigns is next. Right?
Right.
There's only 2 guys left, right?
Yeah.
No, Rodriguez. I'm like, okay, I guess Reigns is last.
Right.
You know, he batted leadoff his whole career. Now he's batting last.
Exactly. So what bothered me, first of all, the fact that he was last bothered me, but I mean, whatever. I don't have any control over that. But a few things bothered me. Number one, on the Hall of Fame website, it said that the thing was going to go from 1:30 to 4:30, but it ended at like 5 or 5 something.
Even after 5.
Even after 5. And also on the MLB network, they were airing it live, and I had set my PVR to record it. It said it ends at 4:30. And so I only recorded until 4:30. And of course,
so you missed all of Tim Raines.
I missed all of Tim Raines. So that's another thing that
God.
bothered me.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So, you know, it's one thing that Reigns went last, and of course, whoever goes last, those fans aren't going to be happy, but at least make it end on time. I mean, to ask people to sit out there for that long in the crazy hot sun, because remember, we weren't just there from 1:30 to 5, we were there from like noon, if not earlier, until 5.
We were literally roasting like Thanksgiving turkeys.
We were. And the other thing that bothered me was, so all the speakers spoke too long, all of them, including Tim Raines.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. In between each speaker, they decided to show these videos. Like, you know, don't show me videos. Don't just let the speakers go so we can listen to what we want to listen to and get out of there, because
I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to make it more interactive and more fun and whatever, but it was just making it longer, you know?
You know, we forgot even to mention when it finally did start at not 1:30, 1:35, by the way, because they had to play that song by John Fogerty, Center Field. So when it finally starts, first they bring on one person, like who we think is the MC, but he's not the MC. He introduces another person, and that person's the MC. And then
they introduce 50 Hall of Famers.
Exactly, 50 Hall of Famers. And you think, it's not like, oh, and here's Rollie Fingers, and here's Sandy Koufax, and here's Andre Dawson. They had a whole little spiel about each one of them.
Yeah, they read like 2 sentences about each guy.
So that took half an hour.
That was great.
So now it's like 2:00 and they still haven't even started.
Right, and then John Sherholtz goes and starts talking about when I was growing up.
Well, hold on. Before that, the guy who was the MC, he introduces a woman whose name I don't even remember.
Oh, she's like the daughter. She's like the president of the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Or
So then she was the one who introduced each of the inductees.
Right.
So like they have someone introducing someone, introducing someone, introducing someone. And like I said, so it doesn't even get started until like 2 something, and each person talks too long, and it ends later than it's supposed to end, and they have all these videos in between, and the heat was crazy, whatever. Yeah. Luckily, I mean, it's better than having rain. But then one other thing I didn't mention. So Reigns was last, and right when Reigns started to do his speech, there were a bunch of fans there who were there to see Bud Rodriguez. And they're like, okay, well, we saw our guy, so we don't care. And they're having these crazy loud conversations.
They were all drunk. They had so much to drink throughout the day, and they were just having a great time. But they had no respect because Reigns was delivering his speech.
Exactly. Like, everyone was quiet when your guy was up there. Why can't you be quiet when our guy's up there?
And at first, I thought it was only us that was really being affected by this because they were, like, right behind us. But guys that were, like, 20 feet, 20 rows ahead of us stood up and said, hey, you know, like, and started yelling at them, you know, so I'm happy that happened.
So anyway, long story short, I mean, I'm sure you can tell by now because Sunday was actually, of the 2 days, Sunday was supposed to be the day. That was the reason we were going, but I had a lot more fun on Saturday than I did on Sunday.
Sunday was a long day. It was a long day. You know, if you wanted to do it again, I think the thing to do would be to stay over Sunday night.
Actually, no. What I would do is, first of all, I would not recommend that anyone go to an induction ceremony. I mean that honestly, because really you're just sitting there watching speeches that you can watch on television. And you can't even see them because you're so far away. So I would recommend that you don't go to an induction ceremony. Go to the Hall of Fame. Absolutely go. But don't go on induction weekend. That's one recommendation. My second recommendation, if you do decide to go, don't show up early just to get a good spot on the lawn. Because we showed up early and our spot was okay, but it didn't really matter. Even if we were 100 feet further back, it wouldn't have made a difference.
Right.
So show up just before it starts. Don't show up an hour and a half early like we did.
I was going to say, you stay the night and then you don't feel like you have to rush out of there. I think in the back of our minds, we knew we had like a 5-hour drive ahead of us and we wanted to get out of there. So
yeah, because we all had to go to work the next morning.
I know, but maybe, if you stay overnight and you leave on Monday and you make a little bit more of a weekend out of it, maybe it's a different experience.
In any case, for me, Saturday was much better than Sunday. And for me, the best part of the weekend, I didn't even mention, on Sunday, how you met Jonah Keri, and we all did. On Sunday, I'm waiting in line at the field, trying to kill time. I'm waiting in line to buy a T-shirt. And who do I meet? Roger Brulotte.
Right. What did he have to say?
I asked him, I said, when are we getting a team back? And he says, we're trying.
Yeah.
That's all he could say. What does he know?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was nice to meet Roger Brulotte. I found out later Dave Van Horn was there. I didn't know. I would have liked to have met him too.
Right.
And there were other people that we didn't get to meet. But
Jonah told us that Moises Alou was there, but then he was sitting in the front row basically because he's the godfather of Jeff Bagwell's kids, right? So
right. Well, we weren't able to get into the VIP section, so we weren't going to meet any of these people.
Maybe next year.
But for me, the best part of the whole weekend was just hanging out with you and Book and Neil and Paul.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was the best part for me.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I agree.
So then we drove back and I got home after midnight.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I got home after midnight, but I had to drive Book to into the city where he was staying. And so we made a little pit stop at the Orange Julep. 12:30. So all in all, it was a great weekend. Like you said, I recommend the Hall of Fame for anybody. If you're a baseball fan, you have to go. You just have to go. I think it's like a kind of trip that any baseball fan should do. Like you said, not necessarily for the Hall of Fame weekend, but you got to go see the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is great.
Agreed.
Just remember, you can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, anywhere you get podcasts, and give us a review, all that stuff. Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter. Let's get this show to episode 100. Speak to you later.
Bye.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.